The alien ship drifted through space like a dying bird. Its silver hull was cracked and burning, with pieces floating away into the darkness. Inside the bridge, Ambassador Kethfer pressed his long fingers against the control panel. His blue skin was pale with fear. "Send the message," he whispered to his communications officer. "Send it to the third planet in that yellow star system." The officer looked at him with wide eyes. "Sir, that world is marked as Death Class 12. No one goes there. No one has ever returned from there." Kethfer watched through the viewport as another Confederation ship exploded in the distance. The Zephyrian warships moved closer, their black holes gleaming like metal sharks. In 3 months, they had destroyed 12 peaceful worlds. Soon, they would destroy his homeworld too. "The old records say beings live on that death world," Kethfer said. "They call themselves humans. If they can survive on such a place, maybe they can help us." The message was simple. It traveled faster than light across the galaxy, reaching a small blue and green planet that spun quietly around its yellow star. The planet looked peaceful from space, but the ancient files were right. This world was more dangerous than most aliens could imagine. Captain Jake Morrison was drinking coffee in his office when the alarm sounded. He was a tall man with brown hair and calm eyes. He had been in the military for 15 years and had seen many strange things, but he had never seen anything like the message that appeared on his screen. "Admiral Grant needs to see this right away," he told his assistant. Within minutes, he was on a shuttle flying to Earth Command. Admiral Lisa Grant was a serious woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. She had been protecting Earth for 20 years. When Morrison showed her the alien message, she read it 3 times. Before speaking, "They want our help," she said slowly. "An entire galaxy is asking Earth for help. Message says they are peaceful people," Morrison said. "They don't know how to fight a war. Their enemies are destroying world after world." Grant stood up and walked to the window. She could see Earth spinning below them, blue oceans and white clouds. It looked so calm and safe. But she knew better. She knew that humans had learned to survive on a world that tried to kill them every day. "Call the president," she said. "Call the military leaders. We need to decide what to do." President William Hayes sat in the Situation Room with his best advisors. The alien message played on the big screen. Scientists, generals, and politicians argued about what it meant and what Earth should do. "We don't know anything about space." "War," said one general. "Our ships are new. We just learned how to travel faster than light last year." "But they need our help," said another advisor. "If we don't help them, these Zephyrians might come here next." General Ryan Clark was an old soldier with many scars. He had fought in wars on Earth before humans reached the stars. "I've read the message 10 times, he said. "These Confederation people sound like good folks. They don't deserve to die because they chose peace over war." Dr. Benjamin Carter was Earth's best expert on alien life. He had been studying the message and the data that came with it. "The information they sent shows us what we're dealing with," he said. "The Zephyrians are strong, but they fight like robots. They use the same plans over and over. They expect their enemies to be weak." "We're not weak," Morrison said quietly. Everyone looked at him. Morrison stood up and activated the display. Images of Earth appeared on the screen. Hurricanes that could destroy cities, earthquakes that could split mountains, volcanoes that could block out the sun, deserts where nothing lived, oceans that could swallow islands. "They call our world Death Class 12, Morrison said. "They think no one can live here. But we don't just live here. We made this place our home. We learned to fight hurricanes and earthquakes and everything else this planet could throw at us." The room was quiet for a long moment. "What are you suggesting?" "Captain?" the president asked. "I volunteer to take a small fleet to see what's happening," Morrison said. "We'll help these Confederation people if we can, and we'll learn what we're really dealing with." Admiral Grant nodded. "I agree, but you won't go alone. Take our best people." Morrison thought about who he would need. "I want Lieutenant Commander Sarah Mitchell for tactics. She's the smartest officer I know. Dr. Carter for the science side. And Corporal Maria Santos from the Marines. If we have to fight, she's the one I want with me." 2 days later, the human fleet was ready. 3 ships waited in Earth orbit.
AU's Defiance was humanity's newest and strongest warship. The other.
Two ships, Ranger and Scout, were smaller but fast. Together, they carried 300 of Earth's best soldiers, scientists, and officers. Sarah Mitchell was a young woman with red hair and green eyes. She had studied every battle in human history and could think faster than most computers. The alien data shows the Zephyrians always attack the same way, she told Morrison. They use big ships in straight lines. They expect their enemies to run away or surrender. Dr. Carter was excited about meeting real aliens, but worried about the war. The Confederation species evolved on safe worlds, he said. They never had to fight for survival like we did. That's why they don't know how to fight back. Corporal Maria Santos was a small woman with dark hair and quick hands. She had fought in difficult places on Earth where other soldiers couldn't go. I've seen the pictures of those Zephyrian ships, she said. Big and strong, but built like they never expect anyone to board them. If we get close, we can take them. As the three ships prepared to leave Earth, Morrison stood on the bridge of the Defiance. He looked at his home world one last time. Looked so peaceful from here, but he knew what lived beneath those clouds. Humans who had learned to survive anywhere, fight anyone, and never give up. Set course for the Altair system, he ordered. Maximum speed. The ships jumped to faster than light speed and disappeared. Behind them, Earth continued to spin quietly around its yellow star. But across the galaxy, things were about to change. On his damaged ship, Ambassador Kethfer waited for an answer to his message. He didn't know if the humans would come. He didn't know if they could help. But he knew his people were running out of time. The Zephyrian fleet was getting closer to his home world. Soon war leader Zexamoth would arrive with his black ships and burning weapons. Kethfer's people had never fought a war. They had spent centuries building beautiful cities and creating art and learning about the universe. Now all of that would burn unless someone helped them far away. The human ships flew through space toward a war they didn't understand. To help people they had never met, against enemies they had never fought. But they were coming, and they were. Bringing something the galaxy had never seen before. They were bringing the children of a death world. They were ready to show the galaxy what that meant. The human ships dropped out of faster-than-light speed at the edge of the Altair system. Captain Morrison stood on the bridge of the Defiance and looked at the scene in front of him. It was worse than he had expected. Altair Prime burned in the darkness of space. The beautiful blue and green world was covered in smoke and fire. Around the planet, 12 black Zephyrian warships moved in perfect formation. They were huge, each one 3 times bigger than the Defiance. Their weapons fired continuously at the planet below. My God, whispered Lieutenant Commander Sarah. Mitchell, they're destroying everything. Morrison watched as another Confederation ship tried to escape the system. A Zephyrian cruiser caught it easily and blew it apart with one shot. The explosion lit up space for a moment, then faded to nothing. Sir, I'm getting a message from one of the surviving Confederation ships, reported the communications officer. Put it through, Morrison said. The face that appeared on the screen was unlike anything the humans had seen before. Ambassador Kethfer looked like a tall, thin person with blue skin and large, dark eyes. His face was full of pain and fear. Human ships, Kethfer said, his voice shaking. Thank you for coming. I am Ambassador Kethra of the Altarian Council. We are dying here. The Zephyrians have been attacking for 6 hours. Half our fleet is gone. We're here to help, Morrison said. Can you get us to your flagship? Yes, but it's dangerous. The Zephyrians control the space around us. Many of our ships have been destroyed trying to reach safety. Morrison looked at his officers. Sarah Mitchell was already studying the enemy. Formation on her screen, Dr. Carter was recording everything he saw. We'll make it, Morrison said. Send us the coordinates. The 3 human ships moved toward the battle. The Zephyrians noticed them immediately. 2 of the black cruisers turned away from the planet and headed toward the humans. They're coming at us in a straight line, Mitchell observed. Just like the data said they would. They're not even trying to be clever about it. Morrison smiled. Grimly. Good. That makes this easier. Santos, get your Marines ready. We might need to board one of those ships. Corporal Maria Santos was already suiting up in the armory.
My people are ready, sir.
We've been studying the Zephyrian ship designs. Their hulls are strong, but they have weak spots. The first Zephyrian cruiser opened fire when the humans were still far away. Red energy beams shot through space, missing the human ships by hundreds of meters. Their weapons are powerful, but their aim is terrible, Mitchell said. They're not used to fighting targets that move unpredictably. Morrison ordered the human ships to split up and attack from different angles. The Defiance went left, the Ranger went right, and the Scout dove under the Zephyrian formation. It was a simple tactic, but it worked because the aliens didn't know how to respond. The Zephyrian ships tried to turn to follow all three human vessels at once. Their formation broke apart as they confused each other with their movements. Morrison had seen this before in battles on Earth, when an enemy was used to fighting only weak opponents. They didn't know what to do when someone fought back. Human ships reached Ambassador Kethfer's damaged flagship and docked quickly. Morrison, Mitchell, and Dr. Carter took a shuttle across to meet with the alien leader. The inside of the Confederation ship was strange but beautiful. The walls were smooth and curved, decorated with art and symbols.
Yes.
Everything was designed for beings who had never known war. There were no weapons, no armor, no places to hide during battle. Ambassador Kethfer met them in what was left of his bridge. He was even taller than he had looked on the screen, nearly 7 feet tall, but thin as a stick. His blue skin was pale with shock, and his large eyes were full of fear. "You came," he said, his voice full of wonder. "I sent the message, but I didn't really believe anyone would come, especially not from a death world." Dr. Carter stepped forward with his scanner. "With your permission, I'd like to learn about your biology and theirs," he said, pointing toward the Zephyrian ships on the screen. Kethfer nodded. "Of course, anything that might help." As Dr. Carter worked, Morrison studied the battle situation. The Zephyrians had moved back into their formation after the brief confusion. They were firing at the planet again, but some of their ships kept looking toward the human vessels. "They don't know what to make of us," Mitchell said. "Look at their movement patterns. They keep starting to attack us, then stopping and going back to the planet." Kethfer watched the humans with amazement. A Zephyrian energy beam hit his ship, shaking everything and causing sparks to fly from damaged equipment. The alien crew cried out in fear and dove for cover. But the humans just held onto their chairs and kept working as if nothing had happened. "Are you so calm?" Kethfer asked. "We're in the middle of a battle. Your ships are outnumbered 4-1. Morrison looked at him with surprise. "This isn't that bad," he said. "Back home, we call this a Tuesday morning training exercise." Dr. Carter looked up from his scanner. "I've got some interesting data. Zephyrians evolved on low-gravity worlds with thin atmospheres. They're physically weak compared to most species, so they built big ships and powerful weapons to make up for it. But they've never fought anyone who could match their technology and still be physically stronger." "What about the Confederation species?" Morrison asked. "They're like most galactic races," Carter said. "They evolved on safe worlds with stable climates. They're smart and peaceful, but they have no experience with violence or survival pressure." Another explosion rocked the ship. This time several alien crew members were thrown to the floor and didn't get up. The humans helped them to safety while Kethfer stared in shock. "Your people run toward danger," the ambassador said. "When my people see violence, they run away. When you see violence, you run toward it. That's what you do when your homeworld tries to kill you every day," Santos said over the communication system. "You learn to fight back." Morrison made his decision. "Ambassador, I want to try something. We're going to break up their formation and give your ships a chance to escape. But I need you to trust us and do exactly what we say." "Anything," Kethfer said immediately. "Tell your ships to form up behind us. When we attack, follow us in. Don't try to fight the big ships. Go for their smaller escorts and the ships that are damaged." "Can you do that?" Kethfer looked at his remaining officers. They were scared, but they nodded. "We'll try." Morrison smiled. "Good, Mitchell," signaled the fleet. "Santos, are your Marines ready for a boarding action?" "It's always ready, Sir," Santos replied. The human plan was simple, but dangerous. The 3 human ships would charge straight at the center of the Zephyrian formation. They would use their superior speed and maneuverability to get close to the enemy flagship. Then Santos and her Marines would board the Zephyrian command ship while the other human vessels kept the rest of the enemy fleet busy. On the Zephyrian flagship, war leader Zexamoth watched the approaching human ships with interest. He was a tall, gray-skinned alien with cold yellow eyes and sharp teeth. He had conquered 17 worlds using the same tactics every time: send in the big ships, destroy everything that fought back, and accept the surrender of everything that didn't. "The small ships are approaching," his tactical officer reported. "They appear to be attempting a direct assault." Zexamoth laughed, a harsh sound, like metal scraping. "Fools. They must be as stupid as they are small. All ships, concentrate fire. On the lead vessel, destroy it, and the others will flee." But as the human ships got closer, something strange happened. Instead of flying in straight lines like every other species the Zephyrians had fought, the human vessels began moving in impossible patterns. They twisted and turned and spun through space in ways that hurt to watch. "They're flying like they're insane," the tactical officer said. "Or like they're used to fighting in impossible conditions," Zexamoth said quietly. For the first time in his long military career, he felt something he had never experienced before. He felt uncertain. The human ships reached the Zephyrian formation, and chaos erupted. Morrison's plan worked perfectly. The aliens were so confused by the human attack patterns that they started shooting at each other. Their rigid formation collapsed as ships tried to avoid their own allies. "Weapons fire," Santos led her Marines aboard a small shuttle that flew right into the belly of the Zephyrian flagship. The aliens had never designed their ships to resist borders. Why would they? No one had ever been crazy enough to board a Zephyrian warship before. The Marines cut through the hull in seconds and poured into the ship. The Zephyrians inside were tall and strong, but they had never fought hand-to-hand combat before. They didn't know what to do when small, fast humans attacked them in their own corridors. In space, the battle turned into a rout. The Confederation. Ships, inspired by the human example, began attacking with a courage they had never shown before. The Zephyrian formation broke apart completely as ships fled in all directions. War leader Zexamoth found himself face-to-face with Corporal Santos. In his own command center, the small human woman had somehow fought through his entire ship and was now pointing a weapon at him. "Surrender," Santos said calmly. Zexamoth looked at her with his yellow eyes. She was barely half his size, covered in cuts and burns from the fighting, but she showed no fear at all. The news of the human victory at Altair Prime spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. On peaceful Confederation worlds, beings who had never known hope in months of war suddenly dared to believe they might survive. On Zephyrian worlds, military leaders stared at reports that made no sense. War leader Zexamoth stood in his private chambers aboard his new flagship, studying everything the Zephyrian Empire knew about the human homeworld. The data files were old, collected by exploration. Drones centuries ago, before the Empire had any interest in that remote spiral arm of the galaxy. "Impossible," he muttered, reading the atmospheric reports. Hurricane winds that reached 300 kilometers per hour. Temperature variations of 60 degrees in a single day. Seismic activity that can split continents. His aide, Sub-Commander Vexstar, looked at the data with confusion. "Sir, these readings must be wrong. No world could be this hostile and still support life." Zexamoth pulled up images of Earth's surface. Massive storms that covered half the planet. Volcanoes that threw fire into the sky. Oceans with waves taller than buildings. "The readings are correct," he said quietly. "These humans come from a world that tries to kill them every single day, and they call it home." On Earth, the largest military mobilization in human history was taking place. Admiral Lisa Grant stood in the command center at Earth Defense Headquarters, watching as ships launched from every continent. Nations that had been enemies for generations were now working together, sending their best soldiers and equipment to help fight a war none of them had started. "The Chinese are sending their entire Pacific Fleet," reported Colonel Amy Rodriguez, a specialist in fighting wars that couldn't be won through normal means. "The Russians are contributing their Arctic warfare experts. The Americans are sending the Marines. Everyone wants to help. Grant nodded as she watched the display. Hundreds of ships were gathering in Earth orbit, more than had ever been assembled before. How long until the fleet is ready? 2 weeks, Admiral Rodriguez said. Captain Morrison's reports suggest we need to move faster. The Zephyrians are mobilizing everything they have. Meanwhile, Commodore Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his expanded task force at Kepler Station, a Confederation outpost in a strategic star system. His small fleet had grown to include 12 human ships and twice as many Confederation vessels. But more importantly, he had brought Earth's best military minds to help plan the war. Dr. Helen Chang was a physicist who had spent the last month studying captured Zephyrian technology. She was a small woman with black hair and quick hands, and she had already figured out how to make human weapons work better by combining them with alien science. Their energy shields are strong but stupid, she explained to Morrison and his staff. They're designed to stop big, slow attacks. They don't know what to do with small, fast projectiles that change direction. Commander Tony Phillips was Earth's most experienced space pilot, a calm man with steady nerves who had learned to fly in Earth's dangerous atmosphere. I've been testing their fighter response times, he said. They're good in straight lines, but they can't handle three-dimensional combat. They think like they're still flying on a flat surface. Morrison studied the tactical displays. Zephyrians were massing a huge fleet to attack Kepler Station. Intelligence reports said it would be 3 times larger than the force that had attacked Altair Prime. They're trying to use numbers to overwhelm us, he said. Standard military thinking. If a little force fails, use a bigger force. Will it work? Asked Ambassador Kethfer, would become the liaison between human and Confederation forces. Morrison looked at the alien diplomat. In the weeks since the battle at Altair Prime, Kethfer had spent a lot of time with humans. What he had seen still amazed him. Human soldiers volunteered for missions that had 60% casualty rates and joked about it afterward. Human engineers worked in conditions that would kill most alien species and complained only about the coffee being cold. Human pilots flew through asteroid fields that computers said were impossible to navigate and called it a fun afternoon. The numbers don't matter, Morrison said.
Oh.
They still don't understand what they're fighting. Dr. Benjamin Carter had been studying both Confederation and Zephyrian biology for weeks. His findings explained a lot about why the war had gone so badly for the peaceful species. Most galactic civilizations evolved on what we would call paradise worlds, he explained to the mixed human and alien staff. Stable climates, no natural disasters, predictable weather patterns. They developed intelligence and technology, but they never had to develop the ability to survive in hostile conditions. And the Zephyrians, Morrison asked? They're from low gravity. Worlds with thin atmospheres, Carter said. They're physically weak, so they compensated by building powerful technology and using overwhelming force. But they've never fought anyone who combined advanced technology with physical and mental toughness. Colonel Rodriguez had been training mixed human and alien units. It was challenging work. The alien soldiers were smart and brave, but they had trouble understanding human tactics. They keep asking for detailed battle plans, she told Morrison. They want to know exactly what will happen at every moment of the fight. When I tell them we'll adapt based on what the enemy does, they get confused. That's because they've never had to improvise to survive, Morrison said. On Earth, if you can't adapt quickly, you die.
Oh.
The cultural differences were obvious in every interaction. When a meteor shower damaged part of Kepler Station, human crews went outside to make repairs while the station was still being hit by rocks. The alien crews watched in amazement as humans worked in conditions that would terrify most galactic species. You treat deadly situations like minor inconveniences. Kethfer observed Sergeant Kevin Brooks, who was leading the repair work, laughed. This is nothing. Back home we call this light weather. You should see what we do during a real storm. Zephyrian attack fleet arrived at Kepler Station exactly when intelligence said it would. War leader Zexamoth had brought over 200 ships, including the Empire's largest battlecruisers. He was confident that sheer firepower would crush the human defenders. Begin the attack, he ordered. Destroy the station and every ship defending it. But Morrison didn't meet the Zephyrian fleet in open battle. Instead, he did something that confused the aliens and worried some of his own allies. He ordered the human fleet to retreat deeper into the asteroid field that surrounded Kepler. "Station, sir, are we really running away?" asked Commander Phillips. Morrison smiled as he watched the Zephyrian ships follow them into the asteroid field. "We're not running, Tony. We're leading them into a trap." Colonel Rodriguez had spent weeks preparing the asteroid field. It wasn't just a collection of floating rocks anymore. It was the galaxy's largest weapon system. It's designed specifically to turn the Zephyrian strengths against them. Hidden throughout the field were kinetic mines that used the enemy's own speed to destroy them. Gravity generators created invisible currents that would pull ships off course. Sensor scramblers made it impossible for the Zephyrians to see where they were going. And scattered throughout the rocks were human marines who had been living in conditions that would kill most aliens. As the Zephyrian fleet entered the field, they encountered their first surprise. What looked like empty asteroids suddenly came alive as human soldiers emerged from hiding places inside the rocks. These Marines had been living in hollowed-out asteroids for days, surviving on emergency supplies and breathing recycled air. "Contact," reported Sergeant Brooks as his team attached magnetic charges to a Zephyrian cruiser's hull, beginning boarding operations. The Zephyrians discovered that humans didn't just fight in space. They lived in space, worked in space, and turned space itself into a weapon against their enemies. Dr. Chang's hybrid technology teams had been busy as well. They had taken Zephyrian weapons and combined them with human engineering and Confederation science. The result was equipment that shouldn't have worked but did, because humans refused to accept that anything was impossible. War leader Zexamoth realized too late that he wasn't chasing a retreating enemy. He was being hunted by predators who had turned his overwhelming advantage into a death trap. The human tactics made no sense according to any military doctrine he knew. They attacked from impossible angles, used their enemies' weapons against them, and seemed to get more dangerous the more desperate the situation became. "Sir, we're losing ships faster than we can count them," reported his tactical officer. "The humans are everywhere. They're inside our formation, outside our formation, above us, below us. Some of them are even inside our ships." Commander Phillips led a desperate attack on the Zephyrian flagship. Flying his fighter through a debris field so thick that his sensors couldn't penetrate it, he navigated by instinct alone, using reflexes developed by growing up on a world where a moment's hesitation meant death. As Phillips' damaged fighter crashed through the flagship's main viewport, Zexamoth finally understood what he was fighting. These humans weren't just another species with better technology. They were something the galaxy had never seen before. They were survivors from a world so hostile that galactic warfare was just another survival challenge. Admiral Lisa Grant's fleet dropped out of faster-than-light speed at the edge of the Kepler system, like a pack of wolves arriving at a hunt. 200 human warships spread out in formation, followed by supply vessels, hospital ships, and troop ships. Carrying the best soldiers Earth had ever produced, Morrison watched from Kepler Station as the largest human fleet in history took position around his base. The sight filled him with pride and worry at the same time. Earth had sent everything they could spare, but intelligence reports said the Zephyrians were coming with over 1,000 ships. "Commodore Morrison," Admiral Grant's voice came over. "The communication system. Permission to come aboard." "Granted, Admiral. Welcome to the war." Grant arrived with her senior staff within the hour. She was older than Morrison remembered, with new lines of stress around her eyes. The weight of protecting Earth and coordinating humanity's first galactic war was clearly taking its toll. "What's our situation?" she asked as soon as she stepped onto the station. Morrison led her to the command center where displays showed the tactical situation. "The Zephyrians are massing everything they have about 6 light-years from here. Our scouts count over 800 ships so far, with more arriving every day." Colonel Rodriguez pointed to the enemy formations on the display. "They're not just bringing warships. They've converted cargo vessels, passenger liners, anything that can carry weapons. This isn't just a battle fleet. It's their entire civilization mobilized for war." Dr. Chang had been working non-stop to prepare for the coming battle. Her teams had retrofitted the human fleet with hybrid technology that combined Earth engineering, With captured Zephyrian equipment and Confederation science, our ships are faster and more maneuverable than theirs, she reported. But they have us outnumbered 4-1. In a straight fight, the numbers will eventually wear us down, Admiral. Grant studied the data with the calm expression that had made her Earth's top military leader. Then we don't fight them straight. What do you recommend, Commodore? Morrison activated a new display that showed the local star system. We use the same tactics that worked at Altair Prime and here at Kepler, but on a larger scale. Turn the entire system into a weapon. Commander Phillips had been scouting the Zephyrian fleet for weeks. His reports painted a picture of an enemy that was powerful, but predictable. They're doing exactly what we expected, he said. Big formations, straight-line attacks, overwhelming firepower. They're planning to jump in and destroy everything in one massive assault. We'll be ready for them, Morrison said, war leader. Zexamoth stood on the bridge of his new super battleship, the largest vessel the Zephyrian Empire had ever built. Around him, the greatest armada in galactic history, prepared for the jump to Kepler Station. Over 1,000 ships stretched across space. From massive battlecruisers to converted civilian vessels, armed with whatever weapons could be fitted to their hulls. This time, there will be no clever tricks, Zexamoth told his fleet commanders. We will destroy them with pure firepower. No human tactics can overcome such numbers. Subcommander Vexstar looked nervous as he studied the fleet displays. Sir, what if they use the same asteroid field tactics again? Then we will blast every asteroid in the system to dust, Zexamoth replied. I have learned from our previous encounters. These humans are dangerous because they are unpredictable. So we will not give them a chance to be unpredictable. You will destroy everything. The Zephyrian fleet jumped to faster-than-light speed, heading for what Zexamoth believed would be the final battle of the war. At Kepler Station, human and Confederation forces made their final preparations. The alliance between Zexamoth. The species had grown stronger over the months of fighting together. Alien crews had learned to appreciate human determination, while human soldiers had come to respect their allies. Intelligence and technical skills. Ambassador Kethfer worked alongside human officers as if he had been born to it. The tall alien had changed during his time with the humans. He no longer flinched at explosions or dove for cover when alarms sounded. Months of watching humans treat deadly situations as routine problems had taught him a new kind of courage. The evacuation ships are ready, he reported to Morrison. All civilian personnel will be clear of the system before the Zephyrians arrive. Good, Morrison said. I don't want any non-combatants here for what's coming. Sergeant Kevin Brooks was preparing his Marines for what everyone knew would be the hardest fight yet. His soldiers had been living in the asteroids around Kepler Station for weeks, turning the space rocks into hidden bases and weapons platforms. Remember, when the shooting starts, these Zephyrians are going to try to use their numbers to overwhelm us, he told his troops. Don't let them. Stay mobile, stay hidden, and make every shot count. We're Marines from Earth. We don't lose fights. The Zephyrian armada arrived at Kepler Station like a metal storm. Over 1,000 ships dropped out of faster-than-light speed. In perfect formation, their weapons already charging for battle. It was the largest display of military power the galaxy had ever seen. Zexamoth looked at his tactical displays with satisfaction. The human fleet was tiny compared to his armada. 200 human ships and maybe 300 Confederation vessels against over 1,000 Zephyrian warships. Begin the attack, he ordered. Destroy them all. But once again, Morrison refused to meet the enemy in the kind of battle they expected. As the Zephyrian fleet advanced, the human ships began what looked like a retreat deeper into the system. Sir, the humans are running again, reported Zexamoth, his tactical officer. Good, the war leader said. Chase them down. Don't let a single ship escape. But as the Zephyrian fleet pursued the humans deeper into the Kepler system, they began to encounter surprises that their scouts had missed. What looked like empty space was actually filled with traps that Dr. Chang's teams had been placing for months. Gravity mines pulled Zephyrian ships out of formation. Sensor scramblers made it impossible for their fleet to coordinate properly. Hidden weapons platforms opened fire from asteroids that sensors had dismissed as harmless rocks. It's the asteroid field tactics again, Vexstar reported, but spread across the entire system. The real surprise came when human Marines began boarding Zephyrian ships in the middle of the battle. These weren't normal boarding actions. Human soldiers were literally flying through space in suits that let them survive in conditions that would kill any other species. Corporal Maria Santos led one of these boarding teams onto a Zephyrian battlecruiser. Her squad moved through the enemy ship like they owned it, fighting in damaged sections with no atmosphere and using the ship's own layout against its crew. These ships are built for beings who never expected to fight inside their own vessels, she reported to Morrison. They have no internal defenses, no security systems. It's like they never imagined anyone would be crazy enough to board them during battle. Commander Phillips was having the time of his life flying through the chaos of the massive space battle. His fighter squadron danced between capital ships, using their superior speed and maneuverability to strike at weak points in the Zephyrian formation. Their fighters can't keep up with us, he reported. They're trying to use the same formation flying that works in atmosphere, but space doesn't have an up or down. We can attack from any direction. The battle that was supposed to be a simple Zephyrian victory turned into chaos as human tactics tore apart the alien formation. Ships that had never operated independently suddenly found themselves cut off from their fleet. Forced to make decisions their crews weren't trained for, Admiral Grant coordinated the overall battle from her flagship. Using tactics that combined centuries of human military experience with new technologies, her ships moved like schools of fish, splitting apart and coming together in patterns that confused the rigid Zephyrian command structure. Their fleet is too big to maneuver effectively, she told Morrison over the communication link. They're getting in each other's way. Press the attack. Dr. Chang's hybrid weapons proved devastatingly effective against Zephyrian shields. Human projectiles that changed direction in flight, energy weapons that adapted their frequency in real time, and kinetic strikes that used the enemy's own momentum against them. Their defensive systems can't adapt fast enough, she reported. They're designed to stop known threats, not weapons that change their properties during flight. Xaxamith watched his perfect battle plan fall apart with growing horror. His overwhelming numerical advantage was meaningless when his ships couldn't coordinate properly. His superior firepower was useless when the enemy refused to stand still and fight. How are they doing this? He demanded. They're outnumbered 5-1. They should be destroyed by now. Sir, his tactical officer said quietly, I think we're not fighting a normal military force. These humans fight like they enjoy it, like battle is just another day at work for them. The turning point came when Commander Phillips led a desperate attack on Xaxamith's super battleship. Flying a fighter that was more patches than original hull, he navigated through a debris field so thick it looked like metal snow. The Zephyrian point. Defense systems couldn't track him through the chaos. Their weapons were designed to stop missiles. In large fighters, not a single pilot who flew like physics was just a suggestion. 6 months after the Great Battle at Kepler Station, the galaxy looked like a different place. The Confederation had rebuilt their fleets using human designs and tactics. Peaceful worlds that had lived in fear for years now had defense forces that could actually defend themselves. And at the center of it all, Earth's children continued to do what they did best, turn impossible situations into victories. Admiral Lisa Grant stood on the bridge of her flagship as the largest fleet in Galactic history prepared for one final jump. Around her, over 500 human warships waited alongside twice as many Confederation vessels. This wasn't just Earth's military anymore. It was an alliance of free worlds, united under the banner of beings who refused to surrender. All ships. Report ready, Admiral, reported her communications officer. Grant looked at the star chart showing their destination. The Nexus system was the heart of Zephyrian space, a strategic location with jump points leading to every major world in their empire. Whoever controlled Nexus controlled the entire Zephyrian war machine. Signal the fleet, she said. Jump in. 30 seconds. The Allied fleet vanished from normal space and reappeared in the Nexus system to find the Zephyrians waiting for them. But this wasn't the same enemy they had fought before. The defeats at Altair Prime and Kepler Station had changed the Zephyrian Empire in ways their leaders never expected. Supreme War Leader Xaxamith commanded what remained of their military from a massive space fortress orbiting Nexus Prime. He had been promoted after his previous defeats, not because his superiors forgave him, but because he was the only Zephyrian commander who truly understood what they were fighting. "The humans have arrived," his tactical officer reported. "Estimated fleet strength, 1,500. Vessels. Zeximoth studied the displays showing the Allied formation. The humans weren't hiding their numbers or using clever tactics this time. They had come to end the war, and they wanted the Zephyrians to know it. "Begin the defense," he ordered. "All stations, all ships, everything we have. If we lose here, the Empire falls." But the battle that followed wasn't like the previous engagements. Morrison, now Admiral of the Allied fleet, had learned from every fight. His tactics had evolved beyond simple hit-and-run attacks. This was total warfare, designed not just to defeat the Zephyrian military, but to end their ability to threaten anyone ever again. Colonel Amy Rodriguez led the opening assault, commanding 300 ships in simultaneous attacks on Zephyrian supply bases across 6 different star systems. Her forces struck with precision that left entire enemy logistical networks in ruins. "Supply depot Zeta is destroyed," she reported from the bridge of her command ship. "Moving to target ITA, enemy response time is still too slow to catch us." Zephyrians tried to respond, but Rodriguez's forces were already gone, jumping to the next target before defenders could arrive. This wasn't just military strategy. This was how humans had learned to hunt on a world where being slow meant being dead. In the main battle at Nexus, Commander Tony Phillips led fighter squadrons that had evolved far beyond anything the galaxy had seen before. Human pilots worked alongside Confederation crews, who had learned human tactics, creating hybrid formations that combined the best of both species. "Their defensive grid is too rigid," Phillips reported as his fighters wove through Zephyrian formations. "They're still trying to protect everything at once instead of focusing on what matters." Dr. Helen Chang's technological revolution had reached its peak. The Allied ships carried weapons that seemed impossible, energy beams that learned from each shot they fired, missiles that communicated with each other to coordinate attacks, and shields that adapted in real time to whatever hit them. "The hybrid systems are working perfectly," she told Morrison from her mobile laboratory ship. "Human adaptability combined with Confederation precision and captured Zephyrian power sources. We're not just matching their technology anymore. We're surpassing it." The space battle itself became a demonstration of everything humanity had learned about warfare. When Zephyrian forces damaged Allied ships beyond repair, the humans didn't retreat. They turned their dying vessels into guided missiles, ramming them into enemy formations with a ferocity that terrified even their allies. "Sir, the humans are using their damaged ships as weapons," a Zephyrian tactical officer reported to Zeximoth. "I know," the Supreme War Leader said quietly. "They turn every defeat into an attack, every loss into a lesson. That's why we're losing this war." But the real change in the war wasn't happening in space. Sergeant Kevin Brooks led Marine operations that targeted the infrastructure that kept the Zephyrian war machine running. Its teams didn't just attack military targets. They systematically dismantled the Empire's ability to support its military. "Orbital. Shipyard 7 is offline," Brooks reported from the surface of an industrial world. "They won't be building any more warships here." The Marines had evolved their tactics as well. They no longer fought like human soldiers trying to adapt to alien environments. They fought like beings who belonged everywhere, who could turn any world into their base of operations. As the battle continued, something unexpected happened. Zephyrian ships began surrendering, not because they were defeated, but because their crews had lost the will to fight. Months of losing to an enemy that seemed unstoppable had broken something fundamental in the Zephyrian. Military Mind Ambassador Kethver coordinated the surrender negotiations from his position aboard Morrison's flagship. The tall alien had become something unique in galactic history, a diplomat who truly understood both war and peace. "They want to discuss terms," he reported to Morrison. "Their Supreme War Leader is requesting a meeting." Morrison looked at the tactical displays showing the battle still raging across the system. Allied forces were winning, but the cost was high. Every moment the fighting continued, good people died on both sides. "Set up the meeting," he said. Make it clear that surrender means complete surrender. No partial agreements. No conditions. They started this war, we're going to finish it. The meeting took place aboard a neutral Confederation medical ship in the middle of the battlefield. Morrison arrived with a small honor guard, while Zeximoth came with his senior commanders. The two groups faced each other across a conference table, while the sounds of distant explosions filtered through the ship's hull. Zex single quotes Moth looked older than when Morrison had first captured him months ago. The strain of fighting an unwinnable war had aged him in ways that went beyond simple time. You have won, the Zephyrian leader said simply. My empire is broken. Our military is scattered. Our worlds are defenseless. What do you want from us? Morrison studied the alien commander for a long moment. In the months since the war began, he had learned that the Zephyrians weren't evil. They were simply a military culture that had never learned when to stop fighting. We want peace, Morrison said. Real peace. Your empire will disarm its military down to system defense forces only. You'll return all conquered worlds to their original governments. You'll pay to rebuild what you destroyed. And if we refuse? Zeximoth asked. Morrison gestured toward the viewport, where the battle still raged. Then we continue this until there's nothing left of your empire to negotiate with. Your choice. Zeximoth looked at his commanders, seeing the defeat in their eyes. They had thrown everything they had at these humans and their allies. Ships, soldiers, weapons, tactics, even their entire civilization's resources. Nothing had been enough. We accept, he said quietly. The formal surrender took place 3 days later on Nexus Prime. Representatives from hundreds of worlds gathered to witness the end of the Zephyrian Empire's expansion. Morrison stood beside Admiral Grant and Ambassador Kethfer as the treaty documents were signed. But the ceremony that mattered most happened later. In a hospital ship, where human medics worked alongside Confederation doctors to treat wounded soldiers from both sides. Morrison watched as Corporal Maria Santos helped a wounded Zephyrian soldier while joking with him about his species' terrible taste in music. That's what makes you special, Kethfer said, joining Morrison at the observation window. Other species would execute their enemies or enslave them. You turn them into friends. Morrison nodded as he watched human and alien medical teams working together. That's what you do when your world tries to kill you every day. You learn that. Survival isn't about being the strongest or the meanest. It's about helping each other get through the next day. In the weeks that followed, the galaxy began the long process of healing. Zephorian worlds that had been stripped of resources to support the war effort received aid shipments from their former enemies. Conquered planets were liberated and helped to rebuild. Confederation expanded to include former Zephyrian territories. Creating the largest peaceful alliance in galactic history, Dr. Benjamin Carter established research stations throughout former Zephyrian space, not to study their technology, but to understand their biology and psychology. His work would help ensure that future conflicts could be resolved without warfare. They're not that different from us, he reported to Morrison during one of their regular conferences. They respond to the same basic needs: security, purpose, respect. Once they stopped being afraid of us, they started working with us.